Hi, I'm Ryan, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to talk about something that is both incredibly important and, honestly, incredibly difficult. We're going to be looking at the top 10 professions with the highest rates of suicide, according to the latest research from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and other occupational health studies. This is a topic that demands our attention, our empathy, and our understanding, because behind every statistic is a human story, a family, and a community deeply affected by loss. It's about the silent struggles that often accompany the work people do every single day. Now, before we begin, I want to be very clear. This video will be discussing suicide and mental health struggles in detail. This is a sensitive subject, and if you are feeling vulnerable, please prioritize your well-being. If you or someone you know is going through a difficult time, please know that you are not alone and that help is available. You can call or text the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at any time to connect with a trained, compassionate counselor. That number again is 988. It's free, it's confidential, and it's available 24/7. Our goal here is not to sensationalize, but to foster awareness and compassion. By understanding the unique pressures and risk factors associated with certain jobs, we can hopefully contribute to a larger conversation about mental health in the workplace and how we can better support one another. We can work towards building systems and cultures that protect the people who build our world, protect our communities, and care for us when we are at our most vulnerable. So let's get into it, carefully and with compassion. Kicking off our list at number 10 are the people who literally build the world around us. Construction workers. When you think of construction, you might think of physical strength, of hard hats and steel-toed boots. But there's an immense psychological weight that often goes unseen. The work is physically punishing, leading to chronic pain and in many cases, a reliance on opioids or other substances to manage that pain and get through the day. The industry is also known for its tough guy culture, where talking about mental health struggles can be seen as a sign of weakness, creating a profound barrier to seeking help. Furthermore, job instability is a constant source of stress. Construction is often project-based, meaning workers can face long periods of unemployment between jobs, leading to significant financial anxiety. This cyclical nature of work, combined with the physical toll and the cultural stigma against vulnerability, creates a perfect storm of risk factors. These are the people who build our homes, our schools, and our hospitals. Yet the very structure of their industry can be detrimental to their mental well-being, leaving them feeling isolated and unsupported when they need it most. At number 9, we find workers in mining, quarrying, and oil and gas extraction. These are industries that power our modern lives, but they often operate in the most remote corners of the world. This geographic isolation is a significant factor, as workers often spend weeks or even months away from their families and support systems, living in temporary camps. This profound separation can lead to intense feelings of loneliness and disconnection from the life they're working so hard to support. The long hours and grueling shift work disrupt natural sleep patterns and social rhythms, further straining mental health. The work itself is also inherently dangerous. Every day, these individuals face the risk of explosions, collapses, and exposure to toxic materials. This constant low-grade fear, combined with the physical exhaustion and isolation, takes a significant psychological toll. It's a high-stakes, high-stress environment where a single mistake can have catastrophic consequences. The pressure is immense, and for many, the remote location means access to mental health resources is limited or non-existent, leaving them to cope with these extraordinary pressures all on their own. Coming in at number 8 are the people who feed us, workers in agriculture, forestry, and fishing. These professions are often romanticized as being simple or idyllic, but the reality is far different. Farmers, for instance, are under immense and relentless financial pressure. Their livelihood is dependent on factors completely outside of their control, like weather, crop prices, and global market fluctuations. One bad season, one drought, or one trade dispute can wipe out a year's worth of work, or even a generation's worth of family legacy. This constant uncertainty creates a level of stress that is almost unimaginable. Moreover, like miners, these workers often experience profound rural isolation. They work long, solitary hours, and their nearest neighbor might be miles away. This lack of social interaction, combined with limited access to healthcare and mental health services in rural areas, creates a dangerous vacuum. For fishermen and loggers, the physical danger of the job is an added stressor. They work in some of the most hazardous conditions on Earth. For all these professions, there's a deep-seated culture of self-reliance, which, while admirable, can prevent individuals from reaching out for help when the weight of it all becomes too much to bear alone. Alright, so at number 7, we have installation, maintenance, and repair workers. These are the technicians, mechanics, and electricians who keep our lives and our industries functioning. You know, when your car breaks down, your heat goes out, or a factory machine fails, these are the people you call. This means their work is often reactive and high pressure. They're constantly dealing with other people's emergencies. The hours can be irregular and long, with on-call shifts that disrupt sleep and family life, leading to chronic fatigue and burnout. They're also frequently exposed to occupational hazards, from dangerous chemicals and electrical currents to physically awkward and demanding positions that lead to chronic pain. There's also the stress of complex problem-solving under a time crunch. The pressure to diagnose and fix a problem quickly and correctly is immense, especially when a business's productivity or a family's comfort is on the line. It's a line of work that requires incredible skill and precision. But the constant pressure, physical strain, and unpredictable schedule can quietly erode one's mental and emotional reserves. Number 6 on our list includes law enforcement officers and other first responders like firefighters and paramedics. These are individuals who, by the very nature of their job, run toward danger when everyone else is running away. Their daily work involves routine exposure to trauma accident scenes, violence, human suffering, and death. This isn't a rare occurrence. It's the baseline of their professional lives. The human brain is just not designed to process this level of repeated trauma, and the cumulative effect, often diagnosed as PTSD or complex PTSD, is pretty profound. Compounding this is a deeply ingrained cultural stigma within these professions. There's often an expectation to be stoic, to be unshakable, to compartmentalize the horror and move on to the next call. Admitting to struggling with the psychological toll can be perceived as a failure or a sign that one isn't cut out for the job, leading to a fear of seeking help. This combination of constant, direct exposure to the worst moments of people's lives and a culture that discourages showing emotional vulnerability creates an incredibly dangerous environment for mental health. Moving to number 5, we find a profession that might surprise some medical doctors, particularly physicians and surgeons. We see them as pillars of strength and knowledge, the people who heal us. But the pressure they endure is astronomical. The training is a marathon of sleep deprivation and stress, and the career itself involves incredibly long hours, life or death decisions on a daily basis, and an immense emotional burden. They carry the weight of their patients' lives, and when things go wrong, despite their best efforts, the feelings of guilt and failure can be overwhelming. This is a crisis that disproportionately affects female physicians, who have significantly higher rates of suicide than their male counterparts. This is attributed to the added pressures of battling systemic sexism, managing family responsibilities, and facing higher rates of burnout. Furthermore, physicians have a tragic advantage. Their expert knowledge of pharmacology and anatomy gives them access to and knowledge of lethal means. This combination of extreme burnout, emotional exhaustion, and access to means makes this one of the most at-risk professions. At number 4 are veterinarians. This is a profession driven by a deep love for animals, but, it comes with a unique and heavy emotional cost. Vets are often faced with the heartbreaking task of euthanasia, a procedure sometimes called compassionate care, but one that takes a significant emotional toll, especially when performed multiple times a week or, honestly, even a day. They're on the front lines of animal suffering, witnessing abuse and neglect, and often feeling helpless to prevent it. This constant exposure to suffering, both animal and human, leads to high levels of compassion fatigue. On top of all that, veterinarians face intense pressure from clients. Pet owners are understandably emotional, but sometimes that emotion turns into anger or guilt directed at the vet, especially when faced with high medical bills. Many vets, especially those running their own practices, are small business owners grappling with immense student loan debt and the financial stress of keeping their clinic afloat. This blend of emotional burnout from euthanasia and difficult cases, financial pressure, and long work hours creates a deeply challenging environment for mental well-being. Our number 3 spot is occupied by transportation workers, especially long-haul truck drivers. The open road might seem like a symbol of freedom, but for many drivers, it's actually a symbol of profound loneliness. They spend days, even weeks, at a time away from their families, friends, and communities. This kind of chronic social isolation is, honestly, a major risk factor for depression and other mental health issues. Life on the road is pretty sedentary, which contributes to physical health problems, and the constant pressure to meet tight deadlines leads to fatigue and stress. The job is monotonous, yet it requires constant vigilance, creating a unique kind of mental strain. To cope with the loneliness, boredom, and fatigue, some drivers may turn to substance use, which just makes mental health problems worse. Sleep deprivation is rampant due to demanding schedules and the difficulty of sleeping in a truck cab at a noisy rest stop. This lifestyle, defined by isolation, pressure, physical inactivity, and sleep disruption, can be incredibly detrimental to a person's psychological state, making them feel disconnected from the very world they're working to supply. At number 2, we find legal professionals, including lawyers and judges. The legal field is, by its very nature, adversarial. It's a world of conflict, high stakes, and immense pressure. Lawyers often work incredibly long hours, poring over complex cases where a single mistake could have devastating consequences for their client. The pressure to win, to perform, and to maintain a flawless record is relentless. This constant state of high alert and intellectual combat can lead to chronic stress, anxiety, and burnout. Many lawyers, particularly those in fields like criminal defense or family law, are also regularly exposed to the traumatic stories and difficult situations of their clients, leading to vicarious trauma. There's also a pervasive culture within the legal profession that equates long hours with dedication and prizes stoicism over vulnerability, making it difficult to admit to struggling. For many, the profession they worked so hard to enter becomes an all-consuming source of stress that bleeds into every aspect of their lives, leaving little room for balance or recovery. And at number 1, the profession with the highest rate of suicide is military service members and veterans. The reasons are complex and deeply tragic. Those in active service face the potential for extreme stress, combat trauma, and long deployments away from their support systems. They are trained to endure hardship and suppress fear, which can make it incredibly difficult to process the psychological wounds of war. The trauma of combat, of losing comrades, and of witnessing horrific events can lead to severe post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. The transition back to civilian life presents its own monumental challenges. Veterans can feel a profound sense of dislocation and a loss of identity and purpose. They may struggle to relate to civilians who just can't understand their experiences, leading to feelings of isolation. For many, the invisible wounds of war, PTSD, traumatic brain injury, depression, continue to fight battles long after they've left the battlefield. The difficulty in navigating the VA system for care, coupled with the stigma that still surrounds mental health, leaves many of our nation's heroes feeling abandoned and alone. Looking at a list like this can feel overwhelming, even hopeless. But the entire point of this conversation is to move from awareness to action, and action begins with hope. The statistics are not destiny. They are a call to action for better workplace policies, for destigmatizing mental health care, and for creating cultures of support and compassion in every single industry. It's about recognizing the humanity and the struggle behind the job titles, and ensuring that no one feels they have to carry their burden in silence. Every job has its pressures, and every person deserves support. If anything in this video resonated with you, or if you are worried about yourself or someone you care about, please remember that help is real and it is available right now. You can connect with people who are trained to support you by calling or texting 988 in the United States. This service is free, confidential, and available 24/7. You don't have to go through this alone. Reaching out is a sign of incredible strength, and it is the first step on a path toward healing and recovery. Thank you for staying for this difficult but vital conversation. It's by talking about these things openly that we can begin to make a difference. Be kind to yourselves and to each other. Look out for your colleagues, your friends, and your family. A simple "Are you okay?" can be a lifeline. There is hope for a future where these statistics are just a memory of a time before we truly learned how to care for one another. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.